blood on their hands or just stunning incompetence. From day one, we have relentlessly exposed the total command failure by Sheriff Christopher Nanos in the Nancy Guthrie mystery. Tonight brings a truly chilling revelation. As a sworn officer from that, he is facing serious allegations of abduction and on-the-job corruption. Bringing us the latest from the precinct is News for Tucson reporter Alex Medina. Just days ago, this officer swore an oath to shield the public, yet he now sits securely in police custody. Nobody carrying a badge catches an abduction charge over a simple misunderstanding, especially not an officer operating within the exact precinct currently spearheading the hunt for an 84-year-old missing grandmother. Not amid an ongoing federal hostage crisis, and certainly not in a community facing relentless national scrutiny since February 1st. Tucson police officially apprehended Travis Reynolds, a 22-year-old deputy for the Puma County Sheriff, on March 26, 2026. Facing abduction allegations, he met a magistrate the next day, where bail was set at $200,000. Before those courtroom doors even swung shut, his own superiors had officially stripped him of his badge. The primary precinct hunting for Nancy Guthrie literally just watched one of their sworn officers get processed for abduction. Let that reality sink in. Because this bust exposes something far darker than a single bad apple gone rogue. It provides a glaring look at the rotten foundation of the very police force the Guthrie relatives desperately trust to find Nancy. Once you grasp the wider scope, you see the institutional decay, the no-confidence votes, and the lab's DNA disasters. Add in conflicting media briefings, and the detention of Travis Reynolds no longer seems like an outlier event. It actually begins to resemble a glaring red flag, and today we unpack exactly what that warning sign means. When dealing with stakes this high, separating the truth from the noise is absolutely critical. We must be incredibly precise here, as this situation leaves absolutely zero room for error. Travis Reynolds was a sworn officer for Puma County. He operated directly under Sheriff Chris Nanos within the core agency, running the Nancy Guthrie manhunt since the very first morning she was reported missing. Crucially, Puma County officials did not bust their own guy. Tucson police had to swoop in and handle it, which remains an incredibly telling detail. It acts as a massive red flag that their internal oversight utterly failed. So let us review the official allegations. Reynolds was actively on duty, driving a handcuffed female suspect to lockup. Executing a routine transfer is standard protocol, yet court filings reviewed by KDTV and several major networks paint a grim picture. The shocking events that supposedly unfolded during that routine drive are exactly why he is staring down abduction charges today. Reports claim Reynolds began making inappropriate comments about her appearance while she remained completely restrained in the back seat. After supposedly passing a vaporizer back and forth, he allegedly promised to make her court case disappear if she agreed to visit a motel with him intimately. The terrified victim desperately begged to go inside the facility, but he supposedly refused, leaving her completely trapped in the cruiser while she watched other cops walk their suspects indoors. Having never been in trouble with the law, she had absolutely no clue how processing worked or that this terrifying ordeal was wildly inappropriate. The affidavit states she felt deeply confused by the delay, quietly watching fellow officers process their inmates while she stayed essentially held hostage in the cruiser. He reportedly forced her to watch graphic adult content, and when she pleaded to go inside, he demanded she expose her chest, which she did. Only then did he finally escort her into the facility. Security cameras backed up key parts of her story, and when detectives eventually grilled him about it, Reynolds casually claimed he could not recall whether he discussed sleeping with her or flashed her those graphic clips. He genuinely said he wasn't sure. Imagine a 22-year-old active-duty cop giving that absolutely ridiculous excuse after cornering a helpless, fully shackled woman in the back of his official, highly secure government ride. His bosses quickly confirmed he was permanently let go. Stepping in to sever his employment, the 2nd Tucson police notified them about the heavy charges. The disgraced deputy sits behind bars on a $200,000 bail, though authorities have not officially tied him to the Nancy Guthrie mystery. Not a single shred of hard evidence links him to Nancy, and we intend to stick strictly to the facts. However, we must ruthlessly outline exactly why this particular bust heavily impacts the ongoing search efforts. Even lacking a direct link, the fallout is massive. And the reason goes way deeper than mainstream headlines want to admit. Right now, you absolutely must balance two separate truths in your head without blurring the lines between them. Nobody has formally connected Travis Reynolds to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, which serves as our unshakable foundation here. However, his lack of involvement in her actual kidnapping does not mean his criminal charges are irrelevant to the broader probe. They are entirely distinct issues. The relevance stands firm, even if he never becomes a prime suspect. especially since the Puma County Sheriff is the central force in this drama. They are calling the shots, with Sheriff Chris Nanos serving as the ultimate authority figure, steering the media narrative from the jump. His patrol units are currently canvassing the streets and actively collaborating with federal agents. They control the forensics, the camera footage, the hotlines, and the media briefings, making it completely disastrous when their own deputy weaponizes his authority. Leveraging a uniform and sheer physical brute force to abuse a helpless prisoner undeniably bleeds into the overall integrity of their massive, high-profile manhunt. It festers inside the exact same precinct, an organization that was clearly crumbling before Reynolds even got booked. Before March 26th even rolled around, the Puma County Sheriff's Department was already an absolute train wreck. Locals and frustrated onlookers were already demanding answers about the painfully slow investigation and zero transparency. They spotted glaring contradictions between Sheriff Nanos' official press briefings and the actual facts leaking out elsewhere. Furious citizens quickly mobilized online, launching massive campaigns to strip the sheriff of his elected badge. Trying to oust an active sheriff during a massive federal probe is way beyond a simple headache. It represents an absolute, catastrophic breakdown of public trust. Journalists started calling out the brass, highlighting exact moments where the sheriff's claims totally contradicted outside intel. Back in February, Nanos swore detectives had no fresh suspects on their radar. Meanwhile, nearby shop owners confirmed federal agents were actively circulating new photos and names. Those two storylines simply do not match up. Inside the precinct, the deputies actually staged a unanimous vote of no confidence and demanded his immediate resignation. Let that sink in. Completely unanimous. Every single sworn officer officially stated they could no longer trust their boss. Right in the thick of America's most heavily scrutinized missing persons hunt, that exact chaos was the baseline reality for Puma County law enforcement right before Travis Reynolds got cuffed. Throwing the Reynolds scandal onto that dumpster fire changed everything. You have a sworn officer accused of abusing his badge to trap and terrorize a woman originally booked by another jurisdiction. There is one highly specific piece of the Reynolds nightmare demanding intense scrutiny, and it is entirely separate from the flashy headlines. Listen to the survivor explain why she never fought back. Having a totally clean record, she had absolutely zero clue how a normal booking process actually worked, watching other cops escort suspects inside while she sat stranded in the cruiser. She figured her confusion was just part of the routine. She genuinely believed the wait was standard protocol, she trusted the system, and that exact blind spot is what Reynolds allegedly weaponized against her. This went way beyond steel handcuffs or brute force. He capitalized on her total ignorance of civil rights, trapping her because she had no idea what a legitimate police interaction should feel like. In the courtroom, prosecutors dropped a very deliberate term, power dynamic. That language carries immense weight here. Since Nancy Guthrie's abductor also manipulated her devastatingly fragile state, at 84, she struggled to walk, relied on daily pills, and wore a pacemaker. That same device severed its connection at exactly 2:28 on the morning of February 1st, marking her exact capture. Snatched in her sleepwear without footwear or crucial prescriptions, she fell prey to an attacker who meticulously scouted her weaknesses. They strategized relentlessly, showing up disguised, gloved, heavily armed, and hauling a 25-liter bag. They even spotted the security camera and desperately tried killing the feed. While Reynolds stands accused of hunting his prey inside a squad vehicle, Guthrie's kidnapper invaded the safe haven of an 84-year-old grandmother. Two entirely different offenses on completely different levels. Yet fueled by the exact same twisted logic, they found an absolute weakness and brutally exploited it. The internet exploded instantly. Within seconds, thousands of online comments forcefully linked the disgraced deputy to the Guthrie mystery, completely ignoring the total lack of hard evidence. One user furiously typed, "This is going to totally sabotage the hunt for Nancy Guthrie." Somebody else chimed in, guessing the entire precinct was hopelessly corrupt. Demands for a federal takeover flooded in, questioning how anyone could trust a precinct dealing with kidnapping charges to objectively solve a missing grandma's case. Keyboard warriors don't write legal facts, and we definitely aren't pretending they do. However, that massive online outrage serves as a brutal barometer, measuring the absolute zero faith left in the lead, investigators, and that brutal metric points to zero. The deputies' downfall didn't shatter their faith. It was already completely gone. Weeks of baffling lies and internal mutiny, recall petitions, and almost 2 months of totally empty leads did the real damage. The deputies' scandal didn't plant the seeds of doubt, it just watered them. Exactly 5 days prior to the deputies' arrest, on March 21st, the heartbroken Guthrie relatives begged the media for help. insisting that absolutely no clue was too minor to report. They pleaded with citizens to dig deep into their minds, hoping someone might remember a tiny, incredibly crucial detail. This family is still fighting, completely convinced that someone out there holds the missing puzzle piece. Period. Because right here is where most twisted sagas forget the actual victim and focus entirely on dirty cops. We absolutely refuse to make that horrible mistake, stripping away the precinct politics, the corrupt officer, the internal mutiny, the massive bounty, the creepy letters, and the lagging lab results. An 84-year-old grandmother was brutally snatched in her pajamas, lacking both her shoes and vital daily medicine. Her blood stained the porch she had owned for decades. Meanwhile, her back doors were discovered, completely propped open. Her pacemaker died at exactly 2:28 that morning. Instantly, Savannah Guthrie ditched the 2026 Winter Olympics to desperately hunt for her mother. Sitting opposite Hoda Kotb on camera, she bravely discussed clinging to absolute faith. While drowning in pure grief, she confessed agonizing guilt over her fame potentially endangering her mom, and discussed terrifying ransom letters she genuinely believes are real. She officially resumes her morning duties on April 6th. She steps back on set, totally empty-handed, no rescue, no suspect, and absolutely zero closure. She is only returning because real life simply demands it. However, she is stepping into a chaotic manhunt that has remained completely active for almost 2 agonizing months, without a single public target identified. Here is the exact status of the manhunt right now. Completely clean, totally precise, and strictly factual. Nancy Guthrie vanished on February 1st, 2026. She was spotted the prior evening when her son-in-law dropped her at her Catalina Foothills estate around 9:45. He is completely cleared. Detectives have entirely exonerated the whole family tree. The sheriff openly declared that the incredibly gracious relatives are strictly the victims here. Forensics matched the foyer blood droplets perfectly to her profile. Then, a chilling February 10th video released by director Patel revealed an armed, masked intruder right on her porch. The creep definitely spotted the lens. He desperately tried blinding the lens while lugging a 25-liter Walmart-exclusive Ozark trail bag. Consequently, detectives hit the superstores and instantly reviewed the surveillance tapes. A massive paper trail of corporate receipts finally broke wide open. Detectives flooded the New York neighborhood, analyzing video archives from January 1st, zeroing in strictly on January 11th and the 24th. These specific days suggested an unknown individual was actively stalking her residence. Security lenses actually caught unidentified figures trespassing on the estate multiple times before she was taken. Forensic teams pulled genetic material from the crime scene, but the National Registry gave them nothing. While waiting for more lab results, detectives pivoted to familial DNA, tracking the exact method that finally brought down the Golden State Killer. Adding to the chaos, perpetrators mailed out various extortion letters to local news stations and straight to the Guthrie household. Experts quickly dismissed a handful of these messages as complete fakes. During a sit-down conversation with Hoda Kotb, Savannah Guthrie admitted she leans toward trusting the authenticity of those 2 specific messages delivered straight to their home. By the middle of March, Sheriff Nanos announced that law enforcement had confidently pinned down the underlying reason for this highly calculated ambush. He refused to share that specific reason with the press, instead delivering a deeply chilling public caution. Never fool yourself into believing you are completely protected simply because this nightmare struck the Guthrie household. You do not hear that kind of rhetoric from a top cop who has a neat and tidy conclusion right around the corner. Words like that reveal profound anxiety regarding just how massive this ongoing danger truly is. A staggering $1 million bounty funded by the Guthrie relatives remains completely untouched. Another $12,500 posted by 88 Crime, and Crime Stoppers sits totally uncollected, while we still have 0 apprehensions, 0 indictments, and absolutely nobody officially named as a person of interest, and the handcuffs stay completely empty. How exactly does detaining Reynolds impact the overall tactical situation? The brutal truth looks a lot like this. Absolutely 0 physical proof directly ties Reynolds back to the New York mystery. Yet bringing him into custody throws massive bureaucratic stress onto an agency already cracking at the seams. Each time a department battles a scandal from within, it completely drains their vital resources, wasting valuable time across legal, clerical, public relations, and tactical divisions. The Pima County Sheriff's Office must now juggle a massive federal hunt for a vanished citizen alongside the toxic aftermath of a totally unified vote of no confidence. They are also facing an aggressive effort to oust their leading commander while firing and indicting one of their own sworn officers for abduction. Having the federal agents step in right now is far more than just a helpful bonus. Their presence might be the only thing holding this entire operation together. Federal authorities bring unlimited manpower, boundary-free legal power, and cutting-edge laboratory facilities to the table. Most importantly, they remain completely insulated from the toxic internal drama infecting the Pima County Sheriff's Office, allowing them to hunt for answers without any political distractions. The hunt pushes forward relentlessly. Familial DNA testing keeps running. Detectives are still scrubbing those January street recordings, and fresh leads keep hitting the desk. Hiding deep inside those clips, buried in the genetic markers, layered in the psychological profiles, or locked inside the minds of silent witnesses, the ultimate truth is waiting to be found. Dial 1-800, call FBI to reach the federal hotline. If you possess even a single detail regarding the dawn of February 1st, 2026, or if you notice someone prowling around Nancy Guthrie's block earlier that January, or if anybody acted suspiciously around the places she frequented in the weeks leading up to her vanishing, pick up your phone. Do not wait for tomorrow. Do it right this second. Travis Reynolds stepped before a judge on March 27th to answer for an alleged on-duty abduction committed right from his police cruiser. He is absolutely going to answer to the justice system for those accusations. Yet the most critical mystery consuming Tucson today, the horrific ordeal that has paralyzed both the town and the nation for almost 2 months, remains far from any legal resolution. Nancy Guthrie is still missing in the wind. The tangled web in this narrative is rapidly tightening. Each fresh clue completely rewrites the entire established timeline. Do not go anywhere. Amy Reynolds. Fantastic. Mr. Reynolds, we are now beginning your preliminary arraignment. You stand before this court today accused of abduction. This constitutes a major criminal offense. You retain the absolute right to hold your tongue. Whatever words you speak here can and surely will serve as evidence against you. You are legally entitled to have legal counsel advocate for you, and we are currently assigning one. Wait, are we using the public defender's office here, or? Very well. Well, the court-appointed lawyer's office has not sent over the necessary paperwork just yet. We will temporarily assign the public defender's unit for this specific session. It looks like you do have an advocate sitting beside you right now for this proceeding. Our goal this morning is figuring out the stipulations for your potential bail. I carefully read through the preliminary grievance document. I also examined the background report from pretrial services, which details whether you carry any previous criminal convictions. I cannot tell if that annoying static is radiating from the holding facility or if another microphone was left open. All right. Furthermore, it outlines your local connections, covering job stability alongside their evaluations and final suggestions. Lastly, I went over the prosecution's official stance. They are asking for $50,000. Does the prosecution wish to elaborate? Absolutely. Your Honor, we request a $50,000 bond coupled with pretrial supervision, assuming he actually walks out today. The specific nature of this accusation is deeply alarming, especially considering the defendant's job title and the massive imbalance of authority between him and the survivor. Evidence strongly hints that he has crossed this line in the past. Look, the survivor firmly demands that he stay entirely away from the detention center and the actual crime scene. We also require a weapons ban and a strict no-contact order. The target in this situation is terrified, completely paralyzed by this man due to the massive authority he wielded, the skewed control metrics, and the very real chance he could seek revenge. Based purely on these factors, we are formally demanding that specific financial guarantee alongside the release terms. It is already written in the paperwork, but we are mandating absolutely zero communication. I appreciate that. Your turn. Defense. We appreciate the floor. Your Honor, we formally request his transfer to pretrial management, considering he has lived his entire life in Arizona. He maintains a permanent address and holds down a full-time career. In fact, the supposed survivor actually confirmed these details and seemingly agrees to take on third-party guardianship of my client. I can only assume this implies she has zero issues with him walking free today. Wait, there seems to be a slight miscommunication here, as I highly doubt that individual is the actual target of the crime. Fair enough. I clearly tangled up the facts on that end. My apologies. However, allow me to pivot to a handful of other crucial points. Your Honor, this man possesses an absolutely spotless criminal record, 0 felonies, 0 misdemeanors, and 0 missed court dates. He landed a 2 on the NCA metric and a mere 1 regarding the FTA evaluation. Because of all these heavily mitigating factors, we strongly urge you to let him walk out of custody this afternoon under the watch of pretrial management. I appreciate your input. Very well. Mr. Reynolds, I am officially setting your bail at $200,000. payable via cash or a secured asset. Should you post that money, you will be handed directly over to the pretrial division. You must undergo whatever surveillance or rehabilitation programs they assign. You are strictly barred from consuming alcohol or illicit narcotics and absolutely prohibited from carrying any guns or blades. Hand over every single weapon you own to the police immediately, because keeping them is no longer an option. You are legally barred from contacting the victim or stepping foot near that scene. Your initial hearing is officially booked for April 6th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Just remember that this specific timeline might end up shifting. Keep a completely open line of communication with your legal counsel and track every single appearance, because skipping court guarantees an immediate warrant for your capture. Are we perfectly clear on these terms? Mr. Reynolds, excellent. We are completely finished here. True justice is not measured by uniforms, titles, or press conferences. It is measured by character, accountability, and the courage to protect the vulnerable when no one is watching. This story reminds us of a painful but necessary truth. Authority without integrity becomes danger, not safety. A badge should symbolize trust. When that trust is abused, the damage reaches far beyond one victim or one case. It shakes families, frightens communities, and weakens faith in the very institutions people turn to in moments of fear. That is why silence can never be the answer. Communities must demand honesty, transparency, and responsibility from those in power, but there is also a deeper lesson here for all of us: never confuse power with moral worth. Real strength is shown through compassion, self-control, and respect for human dignity. A society becomes stronger when ordinary people refuse to look away, ask hard questions, and stand beside those who feel powerless. In the end, justice begins with conscience. Truth matters. Human dignity matters. And every community has the right to expect that those sworn to serve will do so with honor, humility, and heart. Without that, trust dies. With it, hope can still be rebuilt.